Welcome to the lore of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Since this game and its DLC are so massive, I'll be covering their lore in 2 parts. Be sure to catch part 2 after this. In Africa during the 21st century, mankind discovered a mysterious perpetual motion machine known as the conduit. This monolithic source of energy ushered humanity into a new era of advanced technology. While this brought with it a higher standard of living, it also brought about new means of warfare. In an effort to claim this power for themselves, different human factions destroyed each other using machines called artifices, laying waste to much of their beloved Earth. The conduit itself was stored in the first low-orbit station, Rhadamanthus, along with an AI supercomputer known as the Trinity Processor. It was composed of 3 cores, Pneuma, Logos, and Ontos, which were meant to further research the conduit. Living on Rhadamanthus was Klaus, a scientist who had all but lost hope for humanity. Angered by the constant warfare, he sought to use the conduit to create a new world without conflict. Though his intentions were good, the experiment caused him and his universe to split in 2. He did indeed create a new world, but he also ravaged his own in the process. The half of Klaus that remained felt tremendous guilt over his actions. Elevated to a being akin to a god, he tried to salvage the remnants of his world as its new architect, using the conduit to restore life with core crystals containing biological information. The Earth of old was transformed into Allrest, a cloud sea covered in titans, inhabited by humans and a new life form called Blades. Klaus also gave new life to the Trinity Processor. 2 of its cores, Pneuma and Logos, survived the experiment, and they were brought to life as special blades known as the Aegis. They took on new identities as Mithra and Malos respectively, but upon questioning the nature of their existence, conflict sparked between them. The people of Allrest were caught in the fight between these 2 blades, causing the death of one of their titans, Torna. Devastated by her part in this battle, Mithra created an alternate persona, Pyra, in order to run from her past. Much later, Pyra would find herself resonating with a human driver, an adventurous young boy named Rex. Together, they traveled across their world to meet Klaus, their creator, while defeating Malos. Inspired by their dreams of the future, Klaus decided to entrust the world to humans once more, using the remainder of his power to combine the Titans into a single landmass. The conduit, which had triggered this whole ordeal, vanished into another dimension, allowing Rex and his companions to live in peace. Rex grew up to father 3 children, one with each of his lovers, Pyra, Mithra, and Nia. One of these children is Glimmer, a daughter with Pyra's likeness and Mithra's rough temperament. The child Rex has with Nia is Mio, a daughter who shares her mother's gourmati features. Nia herself would go on to become the queen of Allrest going forward. While one half of Klaus eventually perished in Allrest, his other half was dragged into the world he created by activating the conduit long ago. This new world, Bionis, consisted of 2 titans fighting in perpetuity. Life grew upon their massive bodies, taking the form of humanoid Homs, biomechanical Mechon, and the winged Hyentia. Even after the titans stopped moving, the living creatures on them continued to fight as part of a scheme set up by Klaus's remaining half. With this world's creation, Klaus manifested as the titan Bionis' soul, Zanza, with his colleague on Rhadamanthus becoming Maineth, the soul of the titan Mechonis. The 2 of them were essentially gods. Initially, Zanza lived alongside the people of Bionis, but after fearing they would abandon him, he made them into his pawns, using a war between Homs and Mechon to serve as his nourishment. Eventually, Zanza's avatar was sealed away by the Hyentia on Prison Island, and to free himself, he possessed the body of a young mechanic named Shulk. When Shulk and his family discovered Zanza's sword, the Monado, Zanza secretly made the boy his new vessel. Unaware of this, Shulk and his friends went on a journey to seek revenge on the Mechon who attacked his home, Colony 9. Upon reaching the heart of Mechonis, however, he discovered the truth, just in time for Zanza to discard him. Shulk was left powerless as Zanza possessed both his own Monado and that of Maineth. Thankfully, Shulk had help from an unusual source. The 3rd piece of the Trinity Processor, Ontos, was transported to Bionis along with Zanza and Maineth. Ontos lived in this world as a Homs named Alvis, who took a liking to Shulk's determination. Supporting Shulk's will to liberate both Homs and Mechon from Zanza's tyranny, Alvis watched over Shulk as he formed his own Monado, a blade with which to slay the gods. With his friends, Shulk defeated Zanza, becoming Bionis' new god. Opting to forego this duty, he wished for Bionis to be reborn as a world without gods, in which people could forge their own path. There was peace for a time, until Shulk and his companion Melia encountered fog beasts, a new threat emerging from some other dimension. While Shulk and Melia were able to vanquish this new foe, it served as a bad omen of things to come. Nonetheless, life moved on. Alvis returned to his original form as Ontos' core, and Shulk would later find this core washed up on the shore of Colony 9. With his lover, Fiora, Shulk fathered a son named Nickel, who shares his interest in engineering. Melia, in addition to being heir to her High Entia race, also went on to become queen of all Bionis. As suggested by the appearance of fog beasts, the worlds of Allrest and Bionis are unstable. They were originally a single universe, and so they naturally begin to converge, threatening life on both of them. The light created by this convergence can annihilate all life, but it also creates a common thread through which the worlds can communicate. Queen Melia and Nia make contact, and together they devise a plan that will allow their people and respective cultures to survive. With the help of their Nopon companions, both kingdoms each make half of a massive ark called Origin. Inside, Origin will store knowledge of their world's societies, as well as the souls of their inhabitants. Therefore, when the two worlds merge together, they can be reconstructed to just as they were before convergence. It is a miraculous feat of ingenuity and cooperation, but even so, people begin to fear the efficacy of this plan. As their souls are assimilated into Origin, people's doubts and inhibitions toward the future form a collective unconsciousness, one that resonates with Origin's AI system. Inheriting these fears, this AI becomes self-aware, naming itself Zed. With the future being so uncertain, Zed opts to prevent it altogether by hijacking Origin. Before Origin is able to properly activate, Zed uses it to create a new world frozen in time. This world, Ionios, is a combination of Bionis and Allrest that follows its own internal flow of time, known as the Endless Now. Clearly, this goes against what Melia and Nia had envisioned, and so the two queens try to fight back and liberate Origin from Zed's control. Melia and her 7 Nopon engineers forge 3 special weapons. One is a sword known as Lucky 7, or the Sword of the End. It is made using Origin's metals, and as such, it contains people's memories and souls, allowing it to cleave through Zed and his reality. Zed derives his power from humanity's collective unconscious, and so a weapon imbued with an opposing will can thwart him. A second Sword of the End is also forged, along with a pair of gauntlets called the Fists of the End. These gauntlets are forged using Origin metal and Numa's core crystal, the combined form of Pyra and Mithra. Sadly, before these weapons can be put to use, Melia is captured by Zed and placed into a deep slumber. Her Nopon are able to escape with Lucky 7 and the gauntlets, but the second Sword of the End falls into enemy hands. The 2 remaining weapons are passed on to Riku, the Nopon descendant of Shulk's friend Riki. Nia also escapes from Origin, working on her end to construct the Ouroboros Stone, a device that grants others the power to fight against Zed. Between these weapons, the queens plant a seed of rebellion to free Ionios and restore their respective worlds. Unfortunately, such triumph isn't anticipated to come anytime soon. Thus, Nia decides to hide in cryogenic sleep until help arrives. She goes to the Cloud Keep, a sealed-off fortress where she can rest. Her mechanical ally, Poppy, comes with, entering a supercomputer that keeps Nia updated on Ionios as she sleeps. With the queens no longer opposing him, Zed decides to replace them with machine clones. This is because, in order to maintain the Endless Now, he needs to harvest life energy from the souls stored in Origin. Those who die in Ionios disperse, with their life force or flame going on to fuel Zed's ambitions. To ensure that he always has a fresh supply of energy, Zed decides to establish a never-ending war between opposing factions. He reasons that youth are ideal for his plan, being both impressionable and vivacious, so he starts to clone all the 10-year-old children stored in Origin. Ignorant to the truth, they are raised to be soldiers for either Keves or Agnes, 2 armies led by the fake Melia and Nia respectively. Both armies are split into colonies, taking shelter in massive machines called Pharaonises. Each Pharaonis has a flame clock that stores harvested life energy from fallen soldiers on the battlefield. These soldiers are educated that, should their own flame clocks run dry, they will perish, so they must always fight and kill for their own survival. To wage this war, the children use specialized weapons called blades, which, unlike the blades of Allrest, do not take humanoid form. Instead, they materialize at the user's will to be used like any other weapon. They also implement mechanical vehicles called Levnises, each built differently according to Kavessian or Agnian technology. As if forcing these children to fight wasn't cruel enough, they also have artificial lifespans placed upon them. Each soldier is created at 10 years old, and if they are lucky enough to survive an entire decade, they are subjected to a homecoming ceremony in which they sacrifice themselves before their fake queens. This is considered the highest honor for a soldier, being sent off in praise. In addition to fighting, some of these soldiers are tasked with releasing the energy of their fallen comrades through music. These Offseers play flutes to mourn the dead. To further add to the cruelty, when any of these soldiers perish, they are eventually cloned once more, returned to the battlefield to repeat the cycle again and again. Colonies are rewarded based on their performance through a ranking system. It is designed to motivate soldiers, with the glory of reaching the top causing their life energy to shine brilliantly. Thus, when colonies reach their highest rank, gold, they are wiped out to harvest their energy at its peak. With only adolescence and a brief adulthood awaiting them, these soldiers are never taught the joys of love, romance, or reproduction. They have never seen a baby, let alone the elderly. To ensure they don't so much as question their way of life, the colonies are managed by Zed's direct agents, known as the consuls. This masked organization pretends to be relaying information between colony leaders and the queens, but in truth, they work for Zed to perpetuate the war. They consist of Zed's avatars, consuls X and Y, as well as former soldiers who, during their terms, express a desire to perpetuate the war. Zed frees these soldiers from their 10-year lifespans, granting them eternity, as well as a power called Mobius. It is a form the consuls take to rival the Ouroboros. The existence of these consuls highlights how it's possible to free soldiers from the flame clocks so that their lives are not tethered to the ongoing conflict. In other words, it's possible to liberate these soldiers for their own good, exposing them to the truth. When Ionios was first created, the vast majority of people from Allrest and Bionis were assimilated into Origin, where their memories and souls are stored. Some individuals, however, were mysteriously left out of this process, essentially carrying over from their respective worlds into Ionios. Because these people are not properly born into Ionios, they exist outside of its flow of time, unaging since their own flow of time has been frozen. Naturally, these few people are also not part of the war between Agnes and Kevis. They happen to include Rex, Shulk, and their two respective apprentices. Panacea follows under Shulk, and is the daughter of Shulk's friends Rhine and Sharla. Linka follows under Rex, and is the daughter of his friends Zeke and Pandoria. The four of them exist in Ionios, while most of their friends and loved ones are stored inside Origin. Even worse, their beloved children Mio, Glimmer, and Nicole have been cloned as part of Zed's army. As a result, Rex and Shulk choose to battle against Mobius, destroying Pharaonis flame clocks to liberate their soldiers. These victims are freed from the fighting, but not their limited lifespans. By having children, however, they are able to start a new generation unrestricted by Zed's oppression. As more of these humans are born, they begin grouping together, forming a city that thrives while hidden from Mobius. They take up the mantle of using Nia's Ouroboros stone, forming a proper rebellion against Zed. The Nopon, creatures present in both Allrest and Bionis, are spared being chosen as Zed's pawns. They live according to their own whims, with some traveling as nomadic merchants, and others pairing up with the city or colonies. Riku, who has inherited both Lucky 7 and the Fists of the End, joins Shulk and Rex at their Liberator's base, the remnants of Bionis' Colony 9. In what was formerly Fiora and her brother Dunban's house, Riku sets up a workshop, waiting for someone worthy to take up his prized Origin weapons. Of all the humans fighting against Mobius, none are as important as Noah and Mio. The two begin their lives as Kavessi and Agnian soldiers respectively. Noah, from an early age, always questions the war and hopes for a world of peace. Mio, in turn, is kind and skeptical of her place in the world. She doesn't know it, but she is the child of Nia and Rex, forced to fight as an Agnian pawn. While Noah and Mio are initially enemies, they ultimately fall in love with one another. Hoping to put an end to the war, they join up with the liberated humans of the city, fighting till their dying breath. Over many generations, this exact process happens again and again. Despite being reborn each time, the two carry over a subconscious bond from one life to the next. In one of these lives, Noah and Mio join the city and have a child together, a boy named Gondor. Unlike his parents, Gondor will be able to live a full life, and he is entrusted their hopes and dreams when they expire. Noah and Mio, if left unchecked, will likely continue to fight Mobius with each reincarnation. To put a stop to this, Zed confronts Noah after his latest death and shows him visions of his previous lives. Realizing he's been trapped in an inescapable cycle of despair, Noah yearns for a way to be with Mio eternally. Zed offers to turn Noah and Mio into consuls. So long as they assist in perpetuating the war, they can bask in the endless now. Even though this means betraying everything they've fought for thus far, Noah accepts Zed's proposal. He is made into Consul N, and in order to fight for Mobius, he is given the second Sword of the End as a darkened blade. While N betrays the people of this city, his child Gondor remains true to the cause. He fathers a lineage of his own, eventually training his grandchildren Matthew and Niall to fight using Ouroboros' power. Matthew is given the Fists of the End, and he takes on Mobius in an effort to save not only the city, but also the forces of Keves and Agnes. While Matthew is optimistic in his fight, his sister Niall becomes jaded after losing the people that are most dear to her. She yearns to protect the people of the city, even if that means turning her back on Agnes and Keves. When constructing Origin, the Queen used Ontos' core. With Klaus's death, Ontos' personality, Alvis, has been suppressed. In its place, Ontos begins to call itself Alpha as it observes Ionios. Without an active conscience, Alpha deems this world of Ionios to be a lost cause. It is a world riddled by instability, barely managing to endure annihilation events that eat at its very structure. To salvage what it can, Alpha plans to save only the liberators and city folk, annihilating everyone else as it takes them to a new world. This becomes a threat to Rex and Shulk, whose children are currently part of Keves and Agnes. It's also a threat to Zed and his Endless Now. Thus, to save their own kids from annihilation, Rex and Shulk reluctantly team up with Zed in an attempt to stop Alpha. Their battle ends in failure. While they are able to delay Alpha for a time, they are wounded in the process. Rex loses his eye, while Shulk's entire arm is dismembered. Until this matter can be settled, the Liberators now have to divide their resources between fighting Mobius and Alpha. Riku constructs a prosthetic arm for Shulk, and along with Rex and their disciples, they continue to free soldiers from their flame clocks. Seeking to improve itself after the last battle, Alpha decides to take on a human vessel, much like Zanza did with Shulk long ago. Niall, who also prioritizes the city folk over Agnes and Keves, finds herself tempted by Alpha's motive. Promised a new world of peace, she welcomes Alpha into her body and rounds up the people of the city, hoping to abandon Ionios. Zed wants to stop this, and so he assigns N to attack Niall at the city. Gondor watches them fight, unsure if he should support Alpha or not. Refusing to let his granddaughter be killed, however, he jumps between N and Niall, incurring a fatal wound from N's sword. In a sense, N has just murdered his own son, burying Noah's kind-hearted nature beneath a storm of despair. Matthew returns to the city just in time to see Gondor fall. With his dying breath, Gondor unleashes a massive blast with Ouroboros that disrupts the conflict. The ensuing explosion causes Alvis, the conscience suppressed within Alpha, to break free, emerging as a separate being simply called A. Repelled, Alpha gives up its current plan, fleeing back to Origin in Niall's body. N proceeds to destroy the city, slaying most of its residents. Using their life force, Zed meets his end of the bargain, resurrecting Mio as Consul M. When she returns to life, she is horrified to learn of what Noah has become. He is no longer the man she once loved. While N assumes that she is happy in this new form, M actually wishes to die. She believes her death will be the only thing that can make N realize the error of his ways and return to his former self. She considers throwing herself off a cliff when she is contacted by Nia, who tells her it won't be enough to destroy her new body. Sensing M's rejection of the Endless now, Nia gives her a key to the Cloud Keep so that she may pass it on to someone who can oppose Zed. Only a handful of survivors escape N's attack on the city. In the aftermath, Matthew is left injured, where A finds and nurses him back to health. With all the memories of journeying with Shulk on Bionis, she disagrees with her Alpha counterpart and reasons Matthew will play a critical role in stopping it. As such, she journeys with Matthew as he looks for his sister. They go on to earn a reputation as Mobius Slayers. Along the way, they come across a battle between Agnian and Kavesi forces. Incarnations of Glimmer and Nicole are at each other's throats. Matthew intervenes, breaking up their fight in hopes of setting them straight. He and A even vanquish a pair of consuls in order to destroy their flame clocks. Glimmer, who is eagerly awaiting her homecoming, feels robbed of her honor and tries to reunite with her army, only for them to fire back at her. Discarded by her own people, Glimmer is nearly killed until Rex, Shulk, and the other liberators step in. Together, they fend off Mobius and expose it as their true enemy. Joined as a single force, Matthew, A, Glimmer, Nicole, and the Liberators convene at Colony 9, where they prepare to confront Alpha. Rex and Shulk are glad to see their kids again, but the conditions are less than favorable. The children don't know their parents are right next to them because they're clones. While a rift stands between them, Rex and Shulk try to support their children indirectly. Matthew refuses to harm his sister, but he's assured that it's possible to separate Niall from Alpha. He fights with that goal in mind, while she tries to convince him to join her. Interrupting their reunion, N shows up to attack Niall, and for as much as Matthew wants to avenge the city, he struggles with the fact that both of them share Alpha as a common enemy. In order to lure Matthew and the others in for a final confrontation, Alpha has Origin appear above the Cent Omnia region. It's possible to reach Origin via an entrance at Prison Island. There, N attacks Matthew, fearing that he will inadvertently help Alpha. The two settle their duel, with Matthew prevailing. He has no intention of letting Alpha or Mobius win. Instead, he will rescue his sister and continue to fight against Zed once Alpha is defeated. When they actually meet, however, before resorting to violence, Alpha tries to convince the party of his plan. He shows them Earth before Klaus began his experiment, before humans fought each other to claim the conduit. Niall is delighted by this peaceful world, convinced that Alpha can make it a reality. Matthew and the others, however, remind her of how this once peaceful world fell to ruin by its own inhabitants. If Niall sacrifices the people of Agnes and Kevis for such a flimsy wish, she'll be no different than Mobius. Finally convinced, Niall joins her brother, rejecting Alpha, who proceeds to attack the party with all of its might. When Alpha tries to pull in Matthew's consciousness, N joins the fight, interrupting the endeavor with his Sword of the End. By combining his sword with Matthew's gauntlets, the two are able to further unleash Ouroboros' power, allowing them to join into a single entity. In this form, they destroy Alpha once and for all, and Alpha accepts this defeat with grace. In its absence, however, Origin still requires an avatar to stabilize Ionios. To take its place, A, Shulk, and Rex decide to enter Origin, entrusting the future to their children so that one day, Mobius can be defeated by a later generation. To make this happen, Rex and Shulk transfer their life force to Glimmer and Nicole, freeing them from their limited lifespan. Origin sinks into the ocean, destroying the parts of Ionios directly beneath it. Fortunately, the Liberators at Colony 9 evacuate in time. While Matthew and N are still mortal enemies, they put aside their feuding for another day. In the meantime, Matthew, Niall, Panacea, Linka, Glimmer, and Nicole construct a new city, one where humans can continue fighting Mobius as a group called the Lost Numbers. While much of their exploits are lost to time, they are remembered through statues built in their honor. Linka and Panacea opt not for statues of themselves, but of their mentors Rex and Shulk, who reside in Origin, maintaining its functions. Nicole and Riku team up to improve the Ouroboros Stone, increasing its capacity to 6 recipients, as well as adding the ability for users to interlink, like they did in the battle with Alpha. Matthew Vandam carries on his legacy through generations of children. Hundreds of years pass before the lost numbers are able to turn the tide of battle. Matthew's descendant, Guernica Vandam, and his daughter Monica become the city's leaders. The other founders establish noble families within the city, each developing their own political motives. Ouroboros warriors are still chosen in groups of 6, but for the latest selection, an unexpected development brings them new hope. En route with the Ouroboros stone, Guernica Vandam is attacked by Mobius, and his transport is shot down. Unable to reach the city, he chooses to bestow Ouroboros' power to an unlikely group of soldiers from Keves and Agnes. Thanks for watching!
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of our anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or our YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like exclusive vids and early access.
As always, celebrate your fandom! I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters: VideoGamer75, Elise Trash for Skinko, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Samuel Gersten, The Nonchalant Ostrich, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Lord Omagoden, Freebrick, Olympian Doll, RNGer Shuffles 1498, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Link Pendrago, King Kobo, Observer Bellis, Flash Daniel, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Andre Foster, Jared Kraus, Zero Effort, Game King 352, Caitlin P, Vladimirovna, Succubus Sakura, Jonathan Padua, The Taz 96, Maxwell's Demon, President Irina Vladimirovna Putina, Kengo X 77, SF Giants Fan Mike, and Akakaze Yume. Thank you all so much.